Okay, so Wing Chun footwork. Some styles they like to have more weight in the back leg, less weight in the front leg. Their idea is so they can kick more. But we're going to talk about the styles that like to have a more 50-50, more balanced footwork approach. Reason being is that it's easier for them to move, to be more mobile. But when you're in this position, of course, if you take a very long step, now you're in a really bad spot because now you can't step again until you shift your body weight to pick up that foot. So one of the secrets is you don't want your stance too wide. So actually from this spot, I can pick up and I can step about this length, this far, from here to here, without really affecting my balance too much. And same thing with my back leg. I can pick it up a little bit and move it just a tad. So that's basically as long or as wide as my steps would be. So they're actually very small. So if you ever played any kind of court sports or if you ever watched them on TV, tennis, basketball, typically when they're in a tight spot, they're not really moving their legs very long distances. They're not stretching them too long. Just enough so they can move around and be mobile. So that's a 50-50 stance. That's the idea behind it. Alright, so some basic footwork. The neutral stance, it's about shoulder width apart, and that will be what we call a neutral stance. The toes are in line, and the reason why you'd stand in this, hopefully it's not to fight. Some people do. You'll see that a lot online. But for other lineages, they just use this as a neutral position, so you're not thinking about the legs, and then you can just focus more on your upper body, the arms, or the strikes, or the blocks. Left front stance would be left foot forward. So that will be the front stance with the left foot, or vice versa with the right foot. So that's your typical front stance, and that'll be your fighting stance. Some Wing Chun styles, they have what they call side neutral stance. So here's the neutral stance. The toes are pointed forward. Toes are pointed in just a tad. Your knees are bent. But a side neutral, which is shift. And so what it does, it actually puts, you may not be able to see, but it puts one side of your hip forward and the other one backward. And when you step the other way, same thing, the opposite hip is forward. You can't see the hip at all, right? Cool. Alright, so again, neutral stance, forward, and again, just so you can practice using your upper body, your arms, and what we call side neutral. And that's only in some schools, not in many. And again, so I was going to put this in this side neutral stance. It's probably going to be backwards on the video, but my right hip is forward. If I use what we call left side neutral, then again, so my left hip is going to be forward. And technically what it is, forward stance, but for whoever's on this side of me, then that'll be my left side neutral stance. So here's side neutral stance to you, and then if I shift my body this way, then that's actually a forward stance. And the reason being is from this position, I can still kick, I can still strike. So we have about a 90-degree arc where I have a pretty strong fighting stance from here to here. And so that's important when you start shifting and you start moving around, fighting or sparring, to understand where you have strength and where you don't have strength in your stance. So, for example, this is a front stance, very strong, forward and backward. If I get push, I get pressure, it's easy for me to adjust with that. But if I get pushed from an almost perpendicular angle, then I have no more support. And so it's easy for me to get pushed off balance. But forward and backward, I'm very strong. So same thing with your side neutral. I can kick, and I have a little bit more range in order to fight. So with the footwork, you have basic steps. So from a front stance, we call half steps. You can go forward or backwards, so this would be a half step forward, a half step back. That's the very basic what any new Wing Chun practitioner would learn, and this is especially in the case with the schools where they have the 50-50 balance in their stance. Yeah, and what takes a little bit of coordination for some people is when you want to move forward, then the forward leg moves first, not the back leg. So this one moves first, this one follows. First, follow. When I go backwards, and then it's the opposite. This one's going to move first, this one follows. Yeah, so typically, but when you're walking, it's a little unnatural for a lot of people because when you walk, actually your rear foot moves first, right? And then your rear foot moves first. But actually, when you're fighting, then you're just taking half steps forward. Now, if you need to clear a longer distance, instead of taking half steps, because you'd have to take maybe 3 or 4 half steps, you can take what's called a full step, and that it just basically looks similar to a normal step. normal walking step. And so when we do it in a textbook way, we want to open up the lead leg, so there's room for the rear leg to walk through, circle, and you're back into a front stance. And when you take a step backwards, the same thing. The rear foot's going to have to adjust to let the front leg move back, and now you're back into a front stance. What's nice about this method of walking is that it can easily turn into a kick, and you're forward. And same thing, you're retreating, kick, and you go back. We have some other footwork that helps you with the angles. A lot of our defensive moves are not blocks, like a lot of people say, but they're deflections and parries. And so it's not just the arms, but it's actually a lot with the hips and the footwork. So one of the first ones that many people will learn is called a defensive step. So from a neutral, defensive step would just be like this. And back around the other way. So as an example, if you see on this line here in the concrete, just pretend that's the line of attack. So I take a defensive step, I move most of my body away from the line of attack. Right? And back the other way. Again, I'm moving past the line of attack. So that's how I'm moving my body out of the way. We have one that's called the feminine offensive. So again, the line's going between my body to represent my center line. Pretend that's also the line of attack for my opponent. So my feminine offensive will look something like this, and then it goes into their center. Boom. In the other direction, same idea. So we talk about feminine offensive, but then there's also a masculine offensive, and that'll be where the rear foot moves forward, and that gives you room for an attack. Feminine offensive is going to look something like this. Rear foot goes behind the front foot, and you're attacking. And masculine offensive is the rear foot moves first, and the front leg follows while you're attacking. Another footwork is called side step, and that's really good when you have a lot of pressure coming at you, or even with a kick. So the side step is similar to the feminine offensive, but you're going to end up first in a T stance. This will represent a T. My feet are representing a T, and then from there I can readjust and come in. It's very similar to the feminine offensive. The main difference is the feminine offensive is much more offensive. So I'm right here. I haven't really gone anywhere while I'm attacking. A side step, it could be more defensive, letting the energy go through, the attack go through, represented by the center line, or the line in the concrete, before I come in. And it's great with kicks, kicking two, come in. And from the other side, same idea, side step, come in. Side step, kick, come in. Alright, so that's a side step. Then we also have what's called a full side step. So again, more pressure, then you have to evade a little bit more. And the same idea as a side step, but you're using the rear leg as a pivot point. So you're opening, move your whole body out of the way. Okay, so side step, boom, boom. Step, step in. Other side, step away, come back in. Alright, but my front leg pretty much stays in the front. And I'm just moving my body and letting the threat pass me. So full side step is my front leg is moving all the way out of the way. My rear leg is staying in a somewhat similar position. So now I'm taking a full side step. I'm coming in. So how's that different? Here's a side step. It's a much smaller move. Full side step all the way around. On the other side. Full side step, come on. And side step.